How's everybody doing?
So far, so good.
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 Him's got a sunset back there. It's been about 2 weeks. Anybody new here? Nope. Okay. Hi.
I'm new in this call. Not new
Hi.
together, but yeah.
Yeah, welcome. We've
Thanks so much.
if you'd like to share a little bit about yourself, how you
Yes.
found me and the book, where you're
Yes,
coming in from.
gladly. Hi everyone. My name is Elvis, and I live in Toronto, originally born in Eastern Europe. And I discovered Andrew's book probably last year, and I was very drawn to it. I resonated with it. I listened all of it, and then I contacted Andrew because I was really drawn on working with him. And one thing led to another. I had many sessions with him, and it opened my eyes to a whole world of feelings repressed within me that I had no idea even existed, which is great. I mean, it was a difficult pill to swallow on the one hand, but on the other hand, it's great. Now I know the truth, and it further led me to facing many things, and glad to be here and glad to meet others as well who are also here together for the same purpose. So very grateful to be here, and I'm glad to hear more about you as well whenever you guys share.
Thanks for coming.
Yes, thank you for hosting this.
All right. Anything anybody would like to talk about? You're always so quiet. Hey Julie, I'm gonna turn off your video until you get that sorted, all right? And then you can turn it back on. It's just making me a little dizzy. All right. Anybody have any questions? Any topics? We had a great call a couple weeks ago. There was a lot of good stuff in there. Any follow up to that, or any other questions? Different chapters, different concepts?
Hey, Andrew. So I'm about to start the second part of the book, the implementation. So can you hear me?
Yep. There you go.
Okay. Yes, as I was saying, I'm about to start the second part for the second time, implementation or the how to. And what I took from the first part or the why of the book, I would say, is accept myself with my shadow and with the parts that I don't like about myself. And I think this is the real way to go towards healing, because time ago, I was fighting against myself, against my beliefs, against everything. I wanted everything to be perfect. Also, I felt identified with you because I was bullied when I was a kid in secondary school because I had some thing in my face, these teenager things in the face. So I was bullied, and I felt identified with some parts of your story. But as a summary, I would say that the most valuable thing that I have found is learn to accept myself as I am, with my shadow and with the things that I don't like about myself. And that's the way I find myself going through towards healing. That's what I would say from the first part of the book. Now to part two, the how.
How to fix yourself, right? Yeah.
So this is it.
Yeah, the that sort of culmination at the end of the first part, stop fixing and start living. And then what's that balance between not fixing anymore, but also not still being where you were? That took me a long time to feel through the difference between being broken and consistently trying to fix myself, which another way to say that is wanting to be broken. I had actually a breakthrough on that last week while while I was gone and we didn't have a meeting. I was able to, through doing synesthetic slackline work, I was able to break through kind of that last little bit of that voice inside of myself that says, I want there to be something wrong with me. And I was able to see that and penetrate it and actually touch into that desire. It's like an actual desire for there to be something wrong with me. And as long as we operate from that place, it's going to be fixing. And it's just going to revalidate that story. Contrast that to simply saying, oh, I want to learn that. Oh, I want to change that. Oh, I want to make that choice. Oh. Do you feel how in the first one, it is a inherent wrongness that needs to go away? And then the second one has no inherent wrongness. It's just a choice. So stopping fixing ourselves doesn't mean we stop learning or growing or healing or changing. But it means we stop it means we stop, yeah. And that can have many layers, right? I've been on this journey 15 years, and year after year, layer after layer, then bleep. How about you, Elaine? I thought I saw you
Yes,
starting to speak.
yes. I guess I've been thinking about that. I struggle with dissociation, and so your method of stopping, sometimes it can get me into this big tizzy, like, well, I don't know, I dissociated, so how do I stop? And then I'll be worried about whether I am dissociating. It can just spiral out of control. And then I wonder if I'm making a story up about it that I can't control it. And I just find that hard.
Yeah, so you have the right instructions, you're just applying it at the wrong level. So that neurotic impulse, stop.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the pattern, the cycle, stop that. I don't even, am I here? I don't even know where am I? Oh shit, I gotta stop dissociating. No,
Oh, dear.
stop that. Right? So
Yeah.
it's if you in computer programming, there's a concept of recursive loops, which basically means it's the Russian Russian collapse. The dolls, the Russian dolls that
Oh, the nesting dolls?
Yes, yeah.
Mhm.
So that's what it is, right? Russian nesting dolls. And so each of those is a stop, right? And so in programming, there's these recursive loops, and then they go and they go and they go and they go down, 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 down. That's the spiral you're feeling. So all you got to do
Okay.
is go backward, right? Just do the opposite.
Okay.
Stop, 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 and then you're out. And so the how you know you're stopping is when things are more still and more quiet. Right? So the direction of stop leads to stillness and silence. And so if you find yourself having more noise and more anxiety, it tells you that you're not actually stopping. I think that's a way I've said it, that I've never said it before. That direction, you know you're stopping. And if you're getting more noise and more, then you're either stopping something maybe irrelevant or not actually stopping.
Yeah. Oh. Mhm.
So that's, yeah, I guess that's something, I'm not sure if I put it in the book. But yeah, that sort of more, how do I know if I'm stopping? Are you more quiet? Are you more still? Do you have more peace? Or is there you a better actual way to phrase it is less noise, less drama, less all of that stuff, because it's not about adding. So I can talk about it that way, but it's more helpful when you're in it to understand it's less, because more, I think in our language, we tend to associate that with doing, with adding, right? More feels like adding. And so if you think about less, then it's subtracting and stopping. Does that make sense? Like the
Yes.
linguistics of it are the additive side versus the subtractive side. And for stopping, right, it's the subtractive side, as well as the whole healing process. Now you can have growth and lessons, and that's kind of an adding, learning things. But I found the most profound learning and healing comes from remembering. And so remembering isn't additive. Remembering is subtractive, right? You're subtracting the veil. You're subtracting the forgotten. You're subtracting the Maya, the illusion. So when you penetrate Maya, right, the illusion, you reveal what's always been there. It doesn't add it into it. It's not a new thing, right? It's not new. It's always there. So in physics, when they've learned, right, Newtonian physics, gravity, inertia, that was all already there. It wasn't a new thing that got added in onto Earth. Then they learned E equals mc squared, right? Energy is everything. That was always there. We learned it, additive knowledge, but in the greater reality, it's always been there.
Yeah.
So that's why in the book I say this is an undoing rather than a doing.
Mm-hmm.
The fixing feels more like an adding because it's based on a lie. And the more that you get closer to the fixing, the more you actually validate the lie was true, that you were ever broken to begin with.
Yeah.
That's why it's about stopping.
And I have a question.
Go ahead.
Did you feel anxious when you stopped? Because like you, I was or I am uh, addict to personal development. So I go from coach to coach, book to book, modality to modality. And when I stop, I feel like anxious
Mm.
that I need to do the next best thing or the next modality. So is it normal? I mean, did you feel anxious when stopping altogether?
Yeah. So, two questions there. What was my experience, and then what is that about? Um, yeah, there's this place. It's a certain limbo, right? It's a certain limbo between is this moment between all of the fixing, you're broken, and the addiction to the personal development and the fixing and the healing and the spirituality and the gurus and all this stuff, the seeking, right? In the book, the chapter, The Spiritual Path is Failing You, right? That's what that is. Doesn't mean it's pointless or useless or wrong or bad. It's part of it. But we've talked about that underlining seeking. So from there, you stop, and then before you have the life you want, right? So it's like, okay, I stopped fixing. I'm not broken. And right now, my bank account is telling me something different, right? My relationships are telling me something different, right? My life circumstances are telling me something different. And so that space in between resolution for results, like manifested results, could even be feelings, how you see yourself internally too. And that stopping from that compulsive stuff that was trying to get that, yeah, it's just this kind of weird, we're so used to doing. All right, but I'm still not where I want to be. What do I do? Stop. And then from that place, when you're at peace, and it doesn't necessarily mean ultimate samadhi, right? It's not ultimate every single thing in your life. But in areas, you can have peace in certain areas of your life, right? So your family life could have peace, but your health maybe isn't. Or you can have great health, but maybe your finances or career or vision. And so bringing that attention and seeing what's at peace, what's not at peace, in that in-between zone, right? It is going to have some sort of unsettledness. And so if we go back to the teaching of, let me see if I can find the chapter. I think it was Avoidance of Life. Here it is. I think so. Okay. Okay, so whenever you feel or think about anxiety, this is where you want to go. Okay, so in the book, it'll be page 144, Avoidance of Life, section, The Avoidance Keeping You Stuck. The avoidant life is one of repression, the grandest being of feeling. The avoidance of feeling is at the root of every avoidance. We avoid because we don't want to feel uncomfortable, whether it's something too painful or something too loving. For example, we can avoid people because we don't want to feel rejected or embarrassed, or because we are unwilling to allow ourselves to be loved and appreciated. We can avoid releasing our art because we don't want to feel criticized, or because we can't accept the praise of our gifts. We avoid the good as much as we avoid the bad. This avoidance is also the cause of much of our anxiety. An avoidance of feeling is the major source of anxiety arising in the body. An avoidance of the now is the major source of mental anxiety. This is why people feel anxious thinking about the future. Every time I see a client feeling anxious in their body, they are avoiding feeling. Every time I see anxiety in the mind, they are avoiding their body in the present moment, which is still related to feeling. When they stop avoiding, they are forced to be in their bodies in the present moment, which results in feeling. This act of feeling is something the client is running away from because they think that what they feel is going to be painful or annihilating. When they start to feel, it can indeed feel that way. It can also feel compassionate and liberating. As they continue to feel more and more and avoid less and less, the client's anxiety around that story goes away for good. This happens when they penetrate the story and stop using it to justify their avoidance. This reveals the epidemic of anxiety This reveals that the epidemic of anxiety is not the cause of an avoidance of life, but the symptom of it. It's not that our anxiety causes us to avoid. It's that our avoidance causes us to become anxious. 3 paragraphs that could change the life of a few billion people. I don't know anywhere else that people are talking about this, about anxiety. We all attribute the lack of us going out and meeting people and doing things as the result of our anxiety. Oh, my social anxiety, right? Whatever it is, my traveling anxiety, my body anxiety. We think that that is what causes us not to do the things. But it's the exact opposite.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so what are you hearing in relation to what you asked?
I think I need to feel more, despite it is uncomfortable.
Yeah, so what are you avoiding feeling in the stopping of all the seeking?
Probably avoiding rejection from people because of my stories from when I was a kid. So probably it's that. I need to dig deeper, but what comes to my mind now is probably I'm trying to avoid rejection or something around that. I will dig deeper though.
Hi, can I say something?
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, because I think we touched on this last week, and it was something that I was going to ask about. And then when you just said the chapter is called Avoidance of Life, I was like, okay, that's exactly it. It's interesting because I've spent so much time becoming incredibly comfortable with who I am now. You know, I never was comfortable with who I am. I spent my life being a people pleaser, trying to fit all of that. I'm at a point now where I'm so strong in living my life exactly how I want it to be. I work so much on all of that stuff, but I have become very far away from people, like I have people around me who are very close. There's those people, but I'm not allowing myself to go any further because so many people, I just feel like people are, I don't know, it's very hard because when you've been hurt a lot by a lot of people, it's very hard to actually take those steps, I think, to be vulnerable with people again. I think that's the hardest part, and it's very easy to avoid taking those steps. So what is the advice around allowing yourself to kind of to do that, to not avoid the feeling? Like, what is the first step, really?
The first step is to find out what that feeling is, right? So I think we've did this on a call before, but it's the same A5 process: awareness, acknowledgement, allowance, annihilation, and access. That's the same thing here. So awareness, what actually is it? In this specific thing, there's a lot of layers here. So let's kind of break it down. Okay, so people, all right? So you have, okay, not going to be sequential orders. There's going to be a little bit of kind of a mind mapping here. So you have people, other people, all right? So you have separation, outside of yourself, other, okay, right? So there's an element of separation, of other, that there's somebody else out there. There's an element of victimhood, right? Somebody can do something to me, right? We give our power away. It's not to say that people don't do things to us, but we have, obviously, to a certain extent, obviously, if somebody actually causes us harm, it's a real thing that's happening to us. But we have the choice on how to respond to it. We have the choice on how we are going to relate to it. We can relate to things as if we have no power, and so we give our power away, or we can relate to things as if we do have power, and take responsibility. So that whole bit in the book on the victim trap. So we have that element. Then we have safety, right? A sense of feeling safe or not feeling safe. If you don't feel safe, then how do you manage that? Well, safety and boundaries go together. Well, then you have needs, right? So you see that there's a lot of dimensionality to this. It's not usually something that someone can just like that, because you start looking at, oh, well, I have a need of being heard. I have a need of feeling safe. I have a need of being seen. I have a need for play. I have a need for intimacy. Okay, well, intimacy, other people. Okay, what is intimacy? Intimacy is letting other people in. What does intimacy require? Vulnerability. Well, what does vulnerability require? Well, it requires courage. It also requires boundaries. I do not suggest or guide clients to going out and being vulnerable until they have a certain sense of safety and they know their boundaries and can set their boundaries and communicate them and enforce them. And so all of these things are actually things that will be in the re-embodiment program, where we use cinesomatics and the movement and the somatic archetypes to actually see how we relate to these concepts. Because we can think we have great boundaries in our head, or that we can enforce our boundaries. But if I say, all right, show me enforcing a boundary, and you go, right? That is not a very strong boundary. If I say, all right, show me enforcing a boundary, and you do this, that's way overboard on the other side, right? And so using the movement in the body and the cinesomatics, we can actually see where we are in relationship to all of these things. in seeing the separation between us, in seeing how willing we are to be vulnerable and have intimacy, how we relate to men and women, because maybe you can be really good friends with men, but women not. Maybe because, right, the trauma of not trusting. So then there's elements of trusting the masculine and the feminine, trusting yourself. Then we have a whole level of trust and safety. Needs to be respected. So you asked a phenomenal question. It's just in the therapeutic healing landscape so multifaceted and multidimensional that there isn't a clear one thing to it. Is that you start seeing there's all of these components. And these components are in regards to being highly functional. You can go out and have friends and not have 80% of that down or figured out, right? You can go out and have normal life, but there's going to be pain, there's going to be suffering, there's going to be things that happen that are going to cause frustration, sorrow, perhaps being violated or violating others, whatever it is. And by doing this work, we take a look at all of these facets and say, oh, okay, well, I feel really empowered. Great. I trust myself. Great. Well, I don't trust those people. Okay, why? And are you okay with that or not? Well, when you're hurt and you don't feel safe, all right, here's another layer. When you're hurt and you don't feel safe and you have stories around that, you don't want to trust people, right? You say, fuck people. I don't need people. You can't trust people. I'm fine with that. I don't need people. Yeah, but it's really not functional because that's not reality. But that comes from the story that's protecting you, that is justifying that result in your life. And so getting through that process. So I have clients come on and for 6 months, they're like, I don't want a relationship. I don't need someone else. All right, well, then we start working for 6 months through the narcissism and needs and all of these things. And then 6 months is like, oh, yeah, I actually love men. I actually love women. I just have been so hurt that I've had to shut that desire off in my life in order to cope or whatever it is. So a very multifaceted answer for a seemingly simple question, but it's really the truth of it. There's all of these things are at play and required to actualize what you asked. Now you can start that process and you can have parts of that. And so the beginning of the work is looking at what are the biggest bangs for the buck, right? What's going to move the needle forward the fastest? If it's safety, if it's boundaries, if it's worthiness, because you may not feel like you deserve to have friends that treat you well because your parents never treated you well, right? I mean, there's hundreds of these things, and it's all different for everybody. There's the similar themes, like there's no unique fundamental issue, right? Like fundamentally, there's a pre-existing set of emotions and dynamics, like all of humanity, always going to be those things. The unique stories and circumstances will change person to person, and the configuration of all those geometries will change. And so our job, your job, is to be as honest as you can about what are those biggest things. And back to what we talked about earlier of avoiding, the best place to start is if you say, what am I avoiding the most in life? What am I avoiding the most in life? Both doing and feeling. What am I avoiding feeling the most in life? Rejection, being rejected. All right, time to go into rejection. Time to let yourself feel that rejection and heal it. It's going into it. It's going into that shadow. And so what would that look like? That would look like going out in the world and doing something with a chance of feeling rejected. Or even looking in the mirror. Maybe you're rejecting yourself. Starting with that. Whatever it is. Is this making sense, everybody?
Yes.
Makes perfect sense.
It
Yeah.
sounds complicated. It's not.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of parts, right? It's just like
Mm,
our body,
Yeah.
right? I mean, there's hands, feet. There's a lot going on, but we're just a human.
mm. Yeah, thank you for that answer. It's very interesting.
Question on that, Andrew.
Yeah.
So like, how do you balance like all of those stuff? Because like now I've become aware of all of it, right? And like, and then I'm like, oh, now I have all this stuff to deal with, and then I can see them projecting everywhere, and then
Yeah.
I'm like, there's this chaos everywhere, and sometimes I feel like I gotta balance it with like taking care of responsibilities in the day-to-day life, and like taking care of a little bit at a time. Like it feels like sometimes I'll drown on it if I completely go in it. And on the other hand, like certain parts of my life will feel like they're I can see how they're being created or projected or a result of those same parts. So there is this they kind of feel like meaningless and empty, but at the same time I can't drop them because I haven't yet created per se a new life based on the like it feels
Can you
like I
can
don't
you
know,
give
like chaotic, I guess.
can you give a practical example?
Practical example, like for instance, like there'll be certain things that well avoidance comes up like what you said, but like avoidance of feeling like certain feelings that I need to there's going to be more and more feelings and then more layers of feelings. So I guess what I'm trying to say is like if I fully just try to handle all of it and keep going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, like I feel like I won't be in a state to also take care of the responsibilities. So like I feel like I try to like my personal experience, like I try to balance out between feeling it and then kind of centering myself and kind of being present and also maintaining sort of a neutral or like a more, I don't know, happy or okay mood where I can perform. It kind of feels like if I go into the center of the shadow, then I wouldn't feel like doing anything which I have to be responsible for. So that's kind of what's been my challenge with balancing. So I was curious on your thoughts in regards to that.
Okay. So, back to the book.
Okay, great. Okay.
Um, so you'll want to reread the page starting on page 297. The pressure of stopping all at once. Yeah. Stopping is the simplest thing, but it's not always easy. It requires no effort in reality. But since we have invested decades of momentum in doing, stopping can take a lot of energy. It takes a lot more energy to stop a freight train steaming down the track than one starting from a standstill. It's not that we must do a lot of heavy lifting. It's that we have to face, feel, and heal our stories before we allow ourselves to stop. It's not the stopping itself that requires effort, but everything leading up to it. Just as it took you effort to do, it will take initiative to undo. The difference is that it takes energy to sustain our doings, but frees energy once we have undone them. We have added so much to improve our persona, are doing so much to fix ourselves, and build up such a narrative that trying to stop all of it at once is unwise. And this next part kind of goes a little bit to what we were talking about earlier. The space of non-suffering and the void-like feeling left from a dissolved story or behavior can be disorienting. It's like an addict of 50 years who is dependent on pharmaceuticals, hard drugs, nicotine, and alcohol going cold turkey. We are similarly dependent and addicted to our illusions and suffering. Stopping everything all at once is not only unlikely to succeed, but it can be dangerous. Doing it all at once is impractical for nearly everyone. This is evident by the infinitesimally small amount of people throughout history who have had an instant, permanent cessation of all suffering and safely sustained it while functioning in society. How many people do we know? Buddha,
Handful.
Jesus, right? Like 5 people in history out of the tens or hundreds of billions of people. So could be you. Chances are you'll probably be better served not. If it happens, wonderful. I haven't seen it. So it's better to take that pressure off than put that pressure on. It's not to say that it can or won't. With that said, do not feel pressure to stop everything all at once. Do not feel the pressure to have the life of a Messiah. There is no race or reward. There is no specialness or status to obtain by grand spiritual events. Most of these goals of attainment and becoming a higher vibrational person are a trap of spiritual elitism. You're ready when you're ready. No advantage is gained from putting pressure on yourself. Relax. Breathe. It is better to attempt a little with integrity and move one step than to try too much, get overwhelmed, and give up. In my own experience, I found there's a story about once I get there, then I'll be able to X, running me when I feel this. I feel like once I stop suffering, then I'll be able to be happy. Or only after I'm fully healed and rich will I be able to relax and enjoy myself. The logic makes sense to our ego, but it never works because you simply cannot get there from there. Lao Tzu, nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. The guideline is this: when it comes up, stop it. If it doesn't come up, don't spend thinking or worrying about it. Don't spend time thinking or worrying about it. If it comes up again, that means you didn't actually stop. Stopping is not pausing until later, and it is not a hiatus until the next time it happens. Nor does it mean coming up with a new story or justification. Stopping means stop. So, what'd you hear in that?
So thanks for sharing.
Anything resonate?
Yeah, no, definitely, 100%. So what's, if I could summarize it, what I take out of it is that be present in the moment with whatever I need to do, whatever comes up, stop that, and don't, because something I notice I tend to do is like, even during the times when things are not coming up, I'm like, oh, but then I've got to deal with all these things which I know they're there, and then I'll deal with it. I mean, sometimes there's a space for that, but because I guess like my ego will make it like a mission to like stop everything, then it'll like become really overwhelming, and then I'll just be like, ah, and then I'll just like well, not stopping, I guess. And then I'll just give it all up. Like, so the book pretty much perfectly summarized it. So yeah, the insight from that is like, yeah, just take a deep breath, relax, and just assure myself that, hey, I'm doing great, everything is going how it's supposed to happen, and one step at a time, what's showing up right now, I'll stop this, and then after I've stopped that, I'll stop more, and then I'll stop as much, but then stop the pressure as well, right? So one step at a time, and be aware of, I guess, other projections, right, should make it difficult to stop even one thing, right? So yeah, that's
Can I
what
give
hear.
you? Are you open to some feedback? We don't.
Of course, please,
normally,
yes.
These aren't feedback calls. That's
I appreciate it. Yes.
yeah, other programs. But do you get the sense that you're just like trying to go? Like you're running from now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, you're terrified of what you see in the now. That's why you feel like there's all this stuff you have to change until you can whatever. What's going to happen when you get through all that list? What do you see?
When I get through all the stuff, you mean, right? All the list?
Yeah, their whole list. Yeah. Then
Yeah.
what?
It's same thing, right? It's still gonna be the same thing. I'm gonna feel whatever I guess I'm terrified of feeling now. But like, yeah, it's a pattern of running away. I can sense that. It's
Yeah.
like I may not be aware of it, but subconsciously, like I don't want to feel it. It doesn't feel good, and my mind is just dragging me in other directions, trying to like get me to do other things. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So I
it's
think
fear.
something that can be very helpful for you, and all of us, is just put your feet on the ground, put your hands on your lap, and don't move them. So we're just going to do this for a minute. You don't have to, but if you'd like to, just put your feet flat on the earth, on the ground, hands on your lap, and literally do not move them at all. Eliza, let's have eyes open. Make it a little more challenging. Okay, so stay here. You all are muted, so okay. Okay, nod your head. Nod your head if you have started to feel any anxiety. 2 people? Great. You guys feel how a lot more still the whole space is? There's so much noise in our lives. Somatic noise, mental noise, emotional noise, psychic noise. Yeah, it feels like, and again, I'm saying this to you because you've been a private client. But yeah, when you get still, it feels like all this darkness starts coming in. It's like that stillness, like the dark clouds start closing in on you. What does that feel like?
Well, the words that came up is like it feels like it's suffocating
Nope,
me. Like
nope,
whatever.
stop. Keep your hands still.
Okay.
Yeah. Talk with your hands still.
Yes, like I'm being suffocated by those feelings, like whatever those are. That's what came up when you said that.
Yeah, so what are you
Like
feeling now?
Yeah, like a lot of fear.
So
Like
you guys
not feeling safe. Yeah.
not feeling safe? Yeah. Yeah. You guys notice a difference when he talks from this place versus how he was talking before? Yeah. You know, the mask is down a bit, and so right there's a vulnerability here because we can see this sadness and this fear, but you're a lot more quiet. So this is something that I would suggest you practice. Feet still, toes still, hands still, fingers still, and speak and work from this place. And it's going to require you to start facing this fear, this sadness, this closing in on you feeling.
Yes.
And usually what happens is you start doing it, and the longer you start doing it, and it starts ramping up. Like the anxiety it gets more and more intense. Yeah. You know, so you're just running from yourself all the time.
Right.
Yep.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good.
You're
Good to know.
welcome. Yep.
Great. Good to know. I'll work on it. Thank you.
Yep. You're welcome. Anybody else have an experience when they stopped moving their hands and feet they like to share? How about you, David?
When I've been doing the feeling work, I've noticed, especially um, during the context of when it comes up, and like when I have social anxiety. I guess I'm mostly wondering about that. Context. How important is the actual context? Like you should really feel it when it's actually happening, and not so much remembering it. And I mean, just the fact that just the heat of the moment kind of makes it harder to really be feeling it more. And for me, I think it's mostly about surrendering and um,
What are you feeling right now? I
I
feel
think
a
it's just,
certain constriction.
yeah, in my stomach.
Yeah.
I could feel myself getting just agitated, I guess.
Have you ever made a funny face?
If once in a while.
Ever? All right, give us your best funny face. That was a
Yeah.
shrug. A funny face. Like you're playing with a little baby.
Yeah, it's difficult for me for sure. Let me see. Uh,
Great. What else you got?
hmm, I don't know. It's hard for
Can you
me.
do this?
I guess I could try. I don't think I can.
You ever do the moose ears?
I mean, I do that. Well, yeah, I could do that. Believe it.
You don't need to explain anything. Just do it. You gotta put them on your head. Your ears are disembodied. All right, let's all do it, everybody. Okay, now make a funny face. All right, so Did we reject you? Did we annihilate you?
No.
No.
I know there's so much energy in just like putting up a facade and just like worrying about what I have to do or what people would want from me.
Yeah, so it's interesting what I'm seeing here. Can I give you a little feedback and then we're gonna close out?
Sure.
Yeah, you don't have to.
Well, I said sure. I guess
Oh,
I'm just
okay.
quiet.
Well, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, you're so caught up in this internal image, you're missing all of the love that we're giving you here.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you want. Like, the whole point of all this stuff you're doing inside is to receive all this love and to be accepted. And so we're out here doing that, but because you're so caught up in this stuff inside, you can't see it.
A lot of noise for sure going on.
Yeah. I understand. Great. So this is just the beginning of your process. And we'll be here for you as you go along.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Anybody, any last questions? Any last words? You're muted, Elaine.
Oh, I had a question. I hope it's not too long. If it is, we can. But I just had this thought. What if you awaken to yourself, to your true self, and you are a bad person? What would that,
Well, you get to be the villain this time.
So we do have villains in the world, and we do have the good people, but
I mean,
you
have
could
you heard of
awaken
George
to,
Soros? I mean, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I guess so. But I guess I've thought of myself as that, just having someone tell me that, and I think, how would I mean, what would I do being a villain?
What do you
Like,
mean
how,
somebody's told you that?
I guess I already, well, actually, my husband said that maybe that's why I people pleased and did all this stuff, because I'm really bad person trying to hide behind all of that.
No, that's all judgment and projection.
Okay.
Yeah, but
And I just thought of that. I thought, well, maybe once I awaken,
yeah, well, that's part of it. Are you willing to
I'm
be
this horrible person, and what would you do?
Yes, you're breaking
What
up
would
a
I
little
do?
bit. Yeah, well,
Okay.
that's part of it. Are you willing to be a horrible person? Are you willing to be the villain? Are you willing to be the bad guy? That's
If
going to
that's
help.
what I uncover, then yeah, okay.
Yeah, you have to be willing for that to be true, or else you're always going to hide. You're not going to get access to all the resources in your shadow. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. Like, I'm not here to tell you that one way is the right way. You got to figure this out yourself.
Yeah.
But the willingness, are you willing to be a villain? Right? Are you willing to hurt people? Are you willing to be mean? Are you willing to be selfish? And some of us hear that and say, what the fuck is this guy? This is a bad guy. Why is he saying we have to do these bad, evil things? Well, what happens if you're reverse wired? What happens if you think enforcing boundaries is being mean? What happens if you think giving somebody feedback is hurtful, and you think being hurtful is bad and being a bad person is bad?
Then you can never learn.
Yeah, you're going to hold them back.
Because
You're going to
you can't.
hold yourself back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you'll never penetrate through that story to integrate
Right.
that shadow material to then serve the light.
Right. Okay. So you have to be open to it all to then gain access.
Yeah, otherwise you're rejecting and avoiding parts of yourself. We have all of it,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
In here,
Yeah.
there's a great Joseph Campbell quote. Joseph Campbell, all the gods, all the heavens, all the hells are within you. So, Hannah, would you like to share a little bit about what you've been learning about how if we think these things are bad and wrong and we don't want to be mean and then we hold people back? You don't have to, but I know you've been learning about that. How you keep it simple, right? Just how you've learned that some things that you thought were mean were actually like being a mature adult, stuff like that.
Yeah, I've seen within my family dynamic like a withholding of feedback in order to kind of placate and comfort each other, when we're actually not really telling each other the truth about how we're showing up and what we're doing or not doing. And when I was first introduced to this idea of feedback, I found it really harsh because it was so opposite from my programming. But I see now that it's a lot. I see where, while it can be not fun to hear, without sharing it, you are holding others back, and you're not allowing them the opportunity to recognize how they're affecting the space, how they're showing up, this sort of thing.
And you shared with me a while ago, like managing employees, right? And having to tell them things that you thought were mean, but they were just like, oh yeah, okay. Or it was maybe not employees, but something like this, where you expected them to be upset, and they were just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, like a fear of confrontation, but in reality, if you avoid giving the feedback, it just leads to more issue later down the road as far as in managing people. So the sooner you can give the feedback, the sooner the issue can be resolved. And people are pretty much always open. And then there's a level of respect that's gained too, I find, because people see that they're not going to get away with stuff on one hand, but I think there's also an energy of like of trust and being held that is felt by them when someone shows up in that way. Like it might not always be fun feedback to hear, but there's I think that when it's done in a loving and clear way, this like not letting someone get away with something can actually be what helps people to feel more safe than anything else. And I know, like, in myself and my journey, I've through this work, I've discovered like kind of subtle, benign ways in which I've been manipulating situations and people. Never anything very big or very serious, but just enough that I feel like I can generally steer things however I feel like is best. But then that ultimately, I'm kind of realizing this as I'm speaking it, leads me to feeling isolated and alone, and that I'm kind of the only one that knows what's going on because I'm creating this orchestration in my mind. I don't know if this is making sense, but so then having someone see and then call out what's happening is almost like a holding of me where I'm not allowing it when I'm in like these subtle manipulations. Does that make sense? That was kind of meandering.
It was a fun river to float down. Thank you for sharing. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. That'll wrap it up. Eliza, anything? Or Holly, if you're here? I don't know if you're here.
I didn't have a question, but I can wait till next week if we're over time.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Just you can put it in the group, in the school group.
I'm great. I love just being in this group. I love just hearing how you share, Daniel. Andrew, so sorry. I hope you don't get that often.
Get it all the time. It's okay.
Yeah, when we talk about you, sometimes it happens. So I imagine. Anyway, I'm mostly unmuted to thank Hannah for that beautiful framing of feedback as a kind of holding. That is just fantastic. Even if it's not fun, it can just be a wonderful expression of love and respect. So amen to that, and to all the good stuff this week. And thank you again.
You're welcome. All right, guys. That's it. We'll see you maybe next week. Let me look. Yeah, we might be moving next week. I think we're gonna do Wednesday. It's a weird month. I have little people coming in for intensives, and yeah, so June's a wild month. So I'll update the calendar. So don't assume next week will be the same day. Check the calendar in the school group. You'll also get probably an email notification. But I think we'll do Wednesday at the same time. Okay. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank
See
you
you
very
soon.
much. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.